course, this game could end on like a cliffhanger, because I know there's a sequel. Hey! Where the hell did you guys go? It was 7. Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back. It looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. What? For a long moment, they simply stood there, looking at one another. Junpei looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7. What happened? What the hell kind of a question is that? 7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained. What did you guys see behind door 3? Snake? Snake was. Snake is? No. 7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by. Junpei wasn't sure what. There's no way, he can't be dead. Unless one of my split paths led to that. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke. Snake is dead. What? That can't just happen. No. Really? There's got to be a split path thing. I know the ninth man's fate was probably unavoidable, but I think after that, it just goes down to split paths. And wow, they just drop that on us. We don't even get to see the body. How did he get behind door 3? Who was the one who messed with the doors? Who was the one who fixed the... Oh my gosh. I'm going crazy. Snake was the obvious one. I was saying this. If he did die, that would throw everything into confusion, because he was the really obvious... Okay, if someone is up to something, it's probably him. So if he's dead, that's crazy. Oh my gosh. You know, when I beat this game, or get a bad ending, or if those are even things, or get one of the multiple endings, because there's got to be multiple if, you know, there's multiple paths and they really do lead that way. Oh my gosh, like, right away I'm going to go back and see, like, what the others are. But I probably won't blind LP those, but I might, like, show little, extra videos, maybe of my reactions to some of the bigger things. I don't know how much of the extra stuff I'm going to record. It depends on where this game goes. He died just as the ninth man did? Are you just saying that he died like the ninth man? Are you saying they both died and that's all you mean by like the ninth man did? Or are you saying he died the same way? Because I find that impossible. It was as if the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken, and he realized he was having trouble breathing. He could feel cold sweat beating on his forehead and neck. June, Santa, and Lotus looked the way he felt. Looked the same way. Oh my gosh, who's doing what? What's going on? All three were frozen in place, their faces white. Oh my god, that's not true, is it? We should make sure. Yeah, right, we should. They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door. Wait! Not that way! They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number. I stuck a screwdriver in there to keep the door from closing all the way. It's not locked, so you can go in that way. Where is he? The shower room on the left side of the hallway? I put a broom in there too to keep the door open. We can get in without going through the number door, right? Yeah, that's right. Their new destination clear, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Oh boy, things just hit the fan. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left wall. Hadn't been open when they'd been through before. But now, it's just 7 had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open. Oh my gosh! They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside. Where is he? It smells horrible. Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Seven pinched his nose shut. Even Santa! All the S's! At least I have one less S to worry about now? Too soon? Ugh. Yeah, this is pretty awful. I feel like I'm gonna puke. It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. Burnt? It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. Oh, it's a lovely imagery you're giving me. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged. No. What is that? LR? Or they didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to their source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider. June, you should stay here. How graphic are they gonna get? How much of this are they showing us? But please just do me a favor, okay? Alright? He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider. It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually they reached the divider. Oh my god, the suspense! They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hands in the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. Oh, you're not even being graphic. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. How do you even know this is Snake? Sorry. How do you even know this is Snake? What's the defining feature? Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in a great Red Sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso. Oh, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like... Okay, so there is a body, but we're not seeing it, I guess. Now, what was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Okay, chunks of flesh torn from the bones sat in the blood like tiny islands in the great Red Sea. A vast, ragged hole had been torn in the torso, but it's definitely him. Wow. Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and become stuck there as they dried. Globules, I don't even know what that word is, but of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall even as they dried to it. You know, for as graphic as you are in text, you really don't like to show us all the imagery. Granted, to me, like, text will never be as bad as pictures. You can give me all the disgusting words you want, but if I don't see an image, I really don't get that moved. Just like Ace said. Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own. Just like the ninth man. The detonator in his bracelet. Wait, what? Oh, so when he said just like the ninth man, he wasn't just saying they both died? The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut? No. No way. He wouldn't fall for that. How? What? The detonator in his bracelet set off the bomb in his gut. There's no way. This is a setup. There's no way he fell for that. How did it even happen? Did someone did Snake come in on whoever the evil person is, fixing up the doors and was like, "What are you doing, good sir?" Because he has good hearing and he could tell, even though the person was trying to be conspicuous or whatever, like not be heard. But Snake has good hearing because he's blind, maybe. And he came in, and then they were like, "Oh no!" So they shoved him into one of the doors, and then just left him. No, because then how would he get to the shower room? Oh, what? It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful. His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, Does this mean no more Edgeworth voice? Oh, sorry to say I died, chump. Cheerio. So long to me. I know it was fun while it lasted, but that's all for me. Damn. Now I'm definitely have to cover him in the extras. His legs were both bent in an unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white blood. He was my favorite voice, too. I love the Edgeworth voice. Ugh, makes me all the more want to get to Edgeworth 2 already, but I'm going to have to wait on that. I don't want to bother touching that until it's completely out. I know a couple cases are already translated, but I'm going to wait till the whole thing's out, otherwise I'm going to play 2 cases and then get pissed waiting for more. But, his bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces. Half of his head had simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. That's not a very cheery thought. Kind of morbid. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the gray slacks. They were all familiar to Junpei. The one other possibility, Snake is alive. If he is, though, he's Zero, or something like that. Because it's entirely possible they just grabbed another body and faked the death. I mean, knowing Snake and how smart he is, I guess it would probably be possible for him to somehow disguise a body to look like him. Just so he could actually go about his business without being, trailed by everyone. Which means, if he is alive, then he's the mastermind, the evil person. If he's dead, then he's dead. But, at least that's what I'm thinking. Anyways, they're all familiar to Junpei. Although I don't think there's a different evil person based on your playthrough. I think all the backgrounds and who's evil and who's not doesn't change from playthrough to playthrough. So I think this does rule Snake out as the evil mastermind, even though it really seemed like he was the one who set up the Ninth Man. I kind of thought what the game was going to do, because I thought that was a red herring. I kind of thought the game was going to get to a point where it's like, people are going to start getting suspicious of Snake, because, they might get onto more stuff. And it's like, that's right, he had the thing, and, the term the Ninth Man was using. But then they would realize later on, or maybe then he'd die, and they'd be like, no, it can't be him. But this is all happening so weirdly. I guess this is what you get with a game with multiple paths. But, still. You gotta play them all to get all the pieces, I guess, but I don't think I'm gonna go back until I beat the whole thing, because if there were multiple save files, I might, but there aren't, so I'm just gonna play it through once and then go back. No mistake about that. It's Snake. Lois's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard it catch in her throat. That sucks, because I never even got to partner up with him. I didn't even go through him in that first door we went through. Maybe if I did, he would be alive. Maybe I would have bonded with him, or maybe Snake is the mastermind. I don't know. Because that's still possible, but that's the only possibility. Otherwise, he's dead. I mean, I guess there's a third possibility, but it's highly unlikely. That's a new angle, new perspective. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human being. Oh, and I gave her that clover too! For the good luck, and damn! I mean, I'm always the kind of person who says, well, there's no point in thinking negative if, there's nothing to lead you to think negative, so you might as well think positive, but, once you get to this point, it's like, well, no reason to delude yourself. You just kind of have to move past it, but you can't really force someone into moving past it in the course of a few hours. And that's all we really have, so I'm not really sure what we're going to do about her. So sad. Unless she's stronger than I think. I mean, I would think she's gonna be super whiny, or not whiny, but super emo, and super emo in the depressing way. I use the term in the way I don't like people using it. People always think of emo as either depressing or lack of emotions, but it just means emotional. Typically, when people talk about it, though, when people talked about it, we're kind of evolved into emotionless, but Before that, it was just depressing, but what it really means is, it could be happy, you could be sad, you could be mad, whatever, but typically people used it for depressing, and this is certainly that case. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces. I think the only really good line you can really give to her at this point is, Snake wouldn't want you to die in a place like this, he'd want you to live on. So, that's what I'd say to her. Other than that, I got nothing. Snake was probably murdered, pal. Makes sense, with the voices. Was it you? Did Gumshoe kill Edgeworth? No, I don't know. Chances are he was killed the same way the Ninth Man was. No. He wasn't. He couldn't have been. The snake wouldn't fall into a trap, so... Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and continued. It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it. First, the killer got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Oh, so my theory earlier was right? If this actually... The problem is, how did he get to the shower room? Wasn't it locked before, or... But, yeah, I mean, the problem is you need 3 people. The killers, yeah, it has to be multiple people if that's what they did. Because if they did do that, and somehow Snake got to the shower room, there still needed to be 2 people working together. The killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3. Then they shoved him into it alone, and waited 9 seconds for the door to shut. Once the door shut, it was over for Snake, but he didn't give up. He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he probably ran into the shower, looking for the dead. It was a small chance, but it wasn't like he had anything to lose. I think he might have actually tried to write something with his own blood, though. Wasn't there that LR? Wait. If I've learned anything, initials are the killers? Is there an R? I know L is Lotus. But is there an R? Do we have an R? I don't think we do. Because I saw an L. But maybe Lotus is an R, but even if that's the case, that doesn't really work, because again, none of us is an R. Unless he's using real names. Or, it's a special message meant for Clover. That could be it too. I don't know. Maybe it's a special way of him telling her the killer without actually doing it. It was a small chance, but yeah, it wasn't like he had anything to lose. Unfortunately, it didn't work. The detonator is only deactivated if everybody who authenticated when they went in uses the dead. And oh, that face. And then 81 seconds after he was shoved in, that happened. I see. So that's what you meant by killers, huh? You need at least 3 people to open one of the doors, including Snake. It wouldn't open for Snake and a single killer. Exactly. That means we're looking at multiple perps here. There's that word, perps again. Oh my god, you're a cop! Junpei crossed his arms and grunted. I doubt it's 7, since I'm standing by him being a cop. I don't know why he has amnesia. There's a certain other game, I'm not going to say what it is, to prevent spoilers, but there's a cop-like character in that game, and they had amnesia, and the reason they gave them amnesia was because they didn't want them, figuring things out, because they would spoil the game or whatever. This might be a similar thing going on. The person in charge gave them amnesia on purpose, in order to, keep them from, figuring things out or something. I don't know. It's possible. Or maybe he just has amnesia. But I doubt it. Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed? When we all split up to look for the parts for the red, I think. Right after that was when he noticed... Right after that was when we noticed he was gone. Actually, that's not the only possibility. From Junpei's point of view, that is the most likely one. But, technically speaking, from Junpei's point of view, trusting no one, as it were, Seven, Ace, and Clover could have found Snake, and then killed him. It is very... I don't see Clover doing that. But it's a possibility, and to me, I have to consider all possibilities, no matter how slim. Then that means none of us have alibis. We were all off searching the rooms we'd been assigned, looking for those parts. Yeah, maybe that was the plan. Maybe, someone realized Snake was really smart, too smart for his own good, and so, they deliberately, I don't know, someone, either Zero, or maybe they're working for Zero, I don't know, someone took the parts off, and then they got there just to have the whole split up ploy happen, so that, they could kill Snake like that. I don't know. It's possible. Or maybe it's just a coincidence. That means anybody could be a killer. Well, wait a minute! What are you talking about? Oh, I love these whodunit situations, and I have no idea. Snake seemed like the most obvious guy, and I said from the beginning it couldn't be him. It's too obvious. But now it's getting to the point where, it could be anybody. So that's pretty crazy. June seems shocked. Well, okay. For starters, I'm gonna rule out Junpei. I don't think it was him. That leaves 6 people, and 2 of them are guilty. There's 7. I'm gonna call it right now. 7's not a bad guy. I think he's a cop. That leaves 5. June? Wouldn't be crazy if she's involved. But it would be a pretty good twist, so I say it's likely. There's also Lotus. She's kind of a bitch, but that might make things too obvious. I don't know. Then again, that L, the L initial. The problem is the R initial I saw there too doesn't really represent anyone. There was also Clover. Unlikely, but I guess it's possible. Then there's Santa, who gave us that eerie message earlier, so maybe he's involved. But it's possible. And Ace. Ace, Santa, June, Lotus, and Clover. 2 of those 5. I don't think it was Clover. I think that wouldn't make sense. So, June, Lotus, Santa, and Ace. To me, those are 2 of those guys. Seems like what it's most likely to me. But, I have no idea who. I'm just saying, by most likely, I mean, it's the other people that I think are the least likely. 7 and, myself, obviously, and Clover seem the least likely. Because I think, if I'm right about 7 being a cop, and I think I am, then I don't think he'd be in on it. And Clover, I don't see it. So I think it's like 2 of the other 4, but I have no idea what combination, so... What are you talking about? How can you say one of us is a killer so casually? Well, not just one of us. If I'm right, then at least 2 of us are murderers. It could be 3, though. Could even be 4! 5 people can open a door. Maybe all 4 of them are in on it. All 4 of the people I didn't talk about. Why don't you calm down a bit, 7? What are you're gonna gain by being so suspicious? That's what Zero wants. You know? What, Zero wants? Exactly. This game was set up by Zero, wasn't it? Any game has a winner and a loser. Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory. Then you're saying that Zero is trying to split us up by making us fight each other? Yes. That is why we can't let ourselves fall prey to suspicions. We have to trust one another and form a strong bond of friendship. Otherwise, we'll end up ensnared by Zero's manipulations. Then, does that mean that the person who killed Snake... Yes, almost certainly Zero himself. If there's anyone we should doubt, it should be Zero. He masterminded this game and kidnapped all of us. Doesn't it seem reasonable that he would have killed Snake as well? Junpei hadn't really considered that. If Zero had killed Snake, then Zero was on the ship with them. Was Zero still on the ship with them? Was Zero still on the ship with them? He was. He would want to see this whole thing. Plus, he's manipulating it, isn't he? is Zero still on the ship? That's actually a hard question to answer. But I would think he'd have to be to some extent. Of course he was. That was obvious. Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought. Where could Zero be hiding? Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting, moaning noises. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. What? Oh, it was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone. I think Zero is one of us. Yeah, I've been thinking that since the beginning. Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. Eyes darted from face to face. One of those faces was the face of their jailer. But who? Junpei said, that's possible. I'm gonna go with what I think. I don't care what Junpei might think. Well, that's possible. I ain't role-playing. Huh? Like Clover said, Zero might be one of us. What are you saying, Jumpy? If he's the kind of sick person who would set all this up, he might get pleasure out of playing the game himself. Or at least staying along to make sure no one gets too smart and realizes what's really going on, if something is really going on, whatever that might be. Didn't you hear what Ace said? Exactly. I said we shouldn't suspect one another for no reason. No reason? I've got a great reason. And what's that? The bracelets. He held out his left arm. Why are the bombs in our bodies connected to the bracelets? You're all thinking Zero's hiding somewhere, watching us, right? If he's doing that, then he could just detonate the bombs by remote control if someone did something they weren't supposed to. It would be a lot more precise and a lot easier. But if that's the case, then why is the bomb set off by the detonator in the bracelet? You got a point. I'm not done. Try applying the same ideas to the Nonary game. All the puzzles here run all by themselves. In other words, Zero doesn't have to be controlling them for the game to move forward. Why is that? Why would Zero bother to do something like that? Junpei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who answered. So let's say you and Clover are right. Zero's one of us. If that's the case, then it'd be really hard for him to keep track of all of us. Or control anything remotely. That's why all the puzzles run by themselves. That's what you're getting at, right? Yeah. Junpei nodded. 7. When we were talking earlier, you said only one of us... You said any one of us could be Snake's killer, right? Yeah, something like that. Alright then, I've got a question for you, Ace. You said something like Zero must be the one who killed Snake, right? Yes, something like that. I can't think of any other explanation. So what do we get if we combine those? They fit together pretty well, I think. Something like this. Whoever killed Snake equals Zero equals one of us. 7 and Ace's theories aren't mutually exclusive. They actually complement each other pretty well. At least they do if Zero is one of us. No one spoke. Their faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up. What were his motives? His motives? Yes. Isn't that pretty important? Why would Zero want to hide as one of us? Oh. Well, that's because, Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea. I don't know. Lotus sighed. Well, so much for making a persuasive argument, Junpei. It doesn't have to be an argument to be a possibility. You want motive? Why the hell did he put us all in this? We have no idea. Maybe he's just batshit insane? Maybe he enjoys the ride? Maybe there's all some bigger thing going on here that we don't know about, and that's why he has to be with us. And like the Nonary game is like a ploy to distract us or something. I don't know. We still have no idea why we're here. In other words, you had only circumstantial evidence. I don't really think that's enough to go on, you know? Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else, to look at. Just when he felt he could bear it no longer... There it goes again. They heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase. 3 in the morning. That means we have 3 hours left. Ooh boy, we're winding down. Then we need to move now. 7 Clover Junpei. 7 Clover Junpei. I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you? Yeah, I guess until there's some real evidence that points to one of us or another, there's no reason to not trust each other. Although we should be careful in like groups of 2s. We should try and always stay at least with 2 other people at all times. Because if we're alone, then again, if 2 people did kill Snake, then it's like, well, I don't know. Try to be with 3 people at all times, if that's possible. Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. I mean, it is important to be together. It is important to trust each other, but only to a certain extent. We should never, under no circumstances should 2 of us go off somewhere, because one of us could be 0. At the same time, though, if 2 people killed Snake working together, then are 2 people 0? In which case, it wouldn't be safe just with 3 people, so I don't know. He swallowed the words he wanted to say inside. 7 and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else very far away. We must go. We have very little time left. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were going. Their next destination was Mercury. Mercury? It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino in the kitchen, between the 2 elevators. Oh yeah, this one, yeah. Forgot! The Mercury card reader. Wait, do you have the Mercury card now? Did someone get that? Did I miss that? Oh, okay. Junpei stood in front of it with the Mercury key card. 7 had given him the card. Okay, I did. Okay, yeah, they did get that in the other place. So it was important to go through there. I thought it when we were checking out the shower room. At least that's what he said. Junpei slid the card through the reader. The light on the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise. Now they were ready. Junpei and June had been chosen as the investigators. Actually, one quick thing I want to say. I hate that this game has branching paths. I know it's cool and all, but part of me is like, oh my gosh, I want to watch more of Nico EP's Let's Plays. I want to see what he has to say about this stuff, but like he could choose different pathways for me, and if he did that, I'd have to stop watching, so I'd be like, oh. So, I don't know what he picked. It's possible he chooses all the same stuff as me, but I doubt it. I'll wait to watch that some other time. But I really want to see it. I want to see other people's thoughts on this game. I guess I'll wait till I finish first. The reasoning being that they had been to EDEC before and no one else had. As before, Junpei set the elevator ahead to make sure the floor they were heading to wasn't flooded. As before, the elevator returned as dry as when it had left. Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and June stepped into the elevator. Oh boy! So where are those guys going? Is there another elevator they can go into, or are they just gonna chill, or what? There are only 2 floor buttons they could push. The C and bottom buttons. Bottom, so below E, I'm guessing? The rest were destroyed or did nothing when pushed. Junpei hit the bottom button. Bottom button. It's on my button. The door closed. Slowly, they began to move downward. Sometime later, Junpei and June stepped off the elevator and onto the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw the hallway to the right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. But not a regular dead end. Oh, there's the 2! I was right! 1, 6, and 2. They all make the 9s. We're coming down! We're getting close to the end then. We gotta be. Or at least we're getting close to the Norner game as we know it. Because we had the 4 and the 5. We had the 7, 8, and 3. Now we have the 1, 6, and 2. After this is just the 9. And assuming the numbers don't cycle, woo, we're really getting there.